Hello, and welcome to Learning from Nature, the Biomimicry podcast with me, your host, Lily Ehrman. This episode is from my first ever live conversation with a guest. I met up with him in the Berkeley Hills when we were both in town for the Bioneers Conference. It was super special to be able to chat in person, and you all will be treated to the sounds of nature around us, including crows, rain, and wind in the trees. Alistair Daynes is an entrepreneur focused on blending creativity, design, and the natural world to build for-profit businesses. Alistair stands as a managing director for Learn Biomimicry. Learn Biomimicry aims to accelerate and advance the world's transition to creating conditions conducive to life, using nature as a design guide. Learn Biomimicry is not a university. It is a natively online organization that focuses on upskilling people to practice biomimicry. Offering foundational and advanced programs on biomimicry, Learn Biomimicry collaborates with the world's best biomimicry practitioners, with a network of affiliate partners. Additionally, Alistair is the co-founder of Rewild Africa, a film company that is a voice for the wild. Rewild short films and documentaries with businesses, innovators, and changemakers who value people, wildlife, and our planet. Rewild clients include BBC, WWF, IUCN, Google Maps, SAN Parks, and a number of promising solutions for restoration. Alistair began his entrepreneurial journey in Cape Town on a year-long assignment as the lead Google Trekker, tasked with showcasing Gary the Google Trekker South Africa's top hiking trails, including the Kruger, Otter Trail, Drakensberg, and over 180 other hiking trails. His philosophy of do what you love, do what you're good at, do what the world needs, and do what you can be paid for has always stood him in good stead. So put on your hiking shoes and join us outside. Yeah, I'm here with Alistair Daynes. I'm really excited to have a convo. We're both in the same place at the same time. Alistair is based in South Africa, Cape Town, and so it's a special treat that we're both in the Bay Area for Bioneers, so I'm really excited to chat with you.
Likewise, Lily. What an absolute privilege it is to be here in Berkeley.
In the rainy forest, chaparral forest with the crows surrounding us and the red-tailed hawks and the little robins hopping around, getting rained on. It's really special. I would like to have you provide your definition of biomimicry and why you love it.
Sure. So biomimicry is the conscious emulation of nature's genius to me. And I think the word conscious emulation is really important. Indigenous wisdom and indigenous knowledge has been sort of practicing a sort of informal biomimicry for thousands of years. But biomimicry is slightly adjacent to that in that it's the conscious emulation of nature's genius. And it's a blend of science and design and inviting those two together to create a life-friendly future. The definition of biomimicry is important, but what really I deeply love is the why. And the why of biomimicry is how do we create conditions conducive to life? And are we, as a species, creating conditions conducive to life? And for the last sort of 200 years, I would argue that we haven't. And now is the time, I think. And definitely being here at Bioneers, you can really sense and feel that. Mm-hmm. Now is the time.
Yeah.
And for that, there's quite a bit of work for us to do. We need to change our cities, we need to change our products, we need to change our services, and we need to change the way in which we show up. There's some more practical examples of biomimicry which bring about the change that we're calling for. And biomimicry in itself is just this wildly diverse field. And much like innovation, it's not necessarily applied to one thing. Mm-hmm. So it's, yeah.
That was a great definition. And yeah, we have all these challenges, all these huge, massive hurdles that we're going to have to address, right, in order to live in harmony here. Biomimicry is a pathway because nature's figured out solutions for every challenge that we have, which is really hopeful for me and comforting. And it's kind of a relief, like, oh, we don't have to use our human brains to design this, but rather 3.8 billion years of evolution and adaptation and organisms that have been here for hundreds of millions of years, sometimes more, adapting and evolving to their specific place. And like you said earlier, as specific as we can get with our challenge and our hurdle and the context of that challenge, what are the constraints, what are, the conditions that it needs to exist in, and then looking to nature in that same context, we can get really ingenious solutions, which is really, really cool. How do we scale biomimicry to a larger level?
So this question, how do we scale biomimicry to a larger level, has been a deep question that has been sort of embodied in Learn Biomimicry for the last 5 years. Over the last 5 years, we've surveyed thousands of people. I've personally met with every practitioner, every educator that's come through our doors, and I've been actively listening, trying to listen to not just the needs of individuals, but also the needs of biomimicry. There are 6 things that I think biomimicry is calling for. The first is that biomimicry is calling for evolution. A lot of learners arrive and there's a sense that it's all figured out, and that's not the case. We are only just getting started. We do today stand on the shoulders of giants, both incredible keystone biomimics like Janine Benyus, and we stand on the shoulders of nature as well, 3.8 billion years of evolution. But where we are today, the conscious emulation of that, biomimicry is still an emerging field, and we've got a long way to go. So there's a large part that all of us individuals can make in testing, experimenting, and iterating on our practice of biomimicry. And biomimicry is a practice. So when it comes to thinking about it, it's kind of like meditation. You just have to do it, That's the best way. And that's my sort of first advice to anyone who's interested in applying biomimicry, is to start where you are. The second part of what I think biomimicry is really calling for is better marketing. So I thought that biomimicry is such a brilliant and beautiful idea. It's so good, it doesn't need to be marketed. But I've subsequently changed my opinion on that. In hearing about the smallpox vaccine, a incredible solution and one that was deeply needed at the time. It took Jenner in 1897, 50 years from the invention to when it was globally adopted. 50 years of friction, psychological friction, religious friction, and a lot of behavioral change is needed. And so I think in the world of biomimicry, we need to better market it, because there's a lot of behavioral change that's required within our communities and society at large. The third part that I think biomimicry is calling for is more biology. Our understanding of biology is, I think, still quite young. We haven't, I think, given it the respect it deserves. There was this beautiful line at Pioneers this past week, which was, biology is not rocket science. It's much more complex. And I just love that. Alongside more biology and a better understanding of biology, we need enabling tools. So that's the fourth point. Biomimicry really does require more enabling tools. We've seen some great ones like generative design, which enable us to design things more like the designs of nature. And much how like the microscope was the enabler to understand cellular biology, so does biomimicry need its microscope. And it's not just one invention, it's multiple inventions. So whether that's AI or generative design, or tools and enabling tools that we've never heard of or thought of, we definitely need more of that. The fifth point that Biomimicry is really calling for is more accelerators and programs which allow for this sort of innovation to occur. So non-deterministic ways and practices is really critical. And what I mean by non-deterministic is that my mom, she would often say, Ali, just study engineering and go to college and become an engineer. And you know, I went on a journey to do that, but I'm much more interested in non-deterministic thinking in non-deterministic ways. And that's what innovation is, and that's what biomimicry is.
Yeah.
So accelerators and programs really create spaces for non-deterministic ways. The Ray of Hope Accelerator is one great space or example of that. And the Biomimicry Practitioner Program is another space where we bring together individuals to do project-based learning. And that's, I think, a key point about understanding that to apply biomimicry, you can't just take one course and then you're done. It really is a lifelong and life-wide practice. The last part of all of this is biomimicry is calling for simple language. So because biomimicry really requires a number of fields to come together, you have engineers talking to business leaders, talking to biologists. Everyone needs to be understood. And for that, we need a simple language, and we need to approach it in ways that it can be accessible to all those fields. And if we can get those 6 things right, I think biomimicry really can scale globally.
Are you excited about the potential of biomimicry and want to begin your own journey in this field? Take the short course set from Learn Biomimicry and kickstart a nature-inspired future. Use my code LEARNINGFROMNATURE, that's all one word with no spaces, to save $60 when you purchase the Biomimicry short course set. Just head over to learnbiomimicry.com/learningfromnature. I also want to dive a little deeper into what you said about understanding biology. As someone who has done some biology work as an undergrad and then kind of left that to just fully immerse myself in biomimicry, I resonate with the folks that come to biomimicry with less biology knowledge, less even design knowledge. I never really did design courses either, so I'm kind of in this limbo. But the process and practice of biomimicry is its own study, as we know from the ASU program and the Learn Biomimicry programs. How do we be better at understanding biology or involve a biologist? At what level does that become important? And what are your suggestions or guidance or mentorship potentially for someone who's in the biomimicry space, wanting to kind of take the next step, but doesn't really understand the biology deeply?
What I've seen from my personal experience, what got me deeply into the love of biology was just studying birds. And I became a bird nerd.
As we're surrounded by all these bird sounds, I hope it gets picked up on the audio because it's so magical.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there's a deep curiosity of just looking to biology. I think sometimes we as humans, we always put ourselves in boxes, right? And I think we really need to, think outside the box, so to speak. And that is to say that everyone can be a biologist and everyone can be a designer. We are designers and we can deeply understand small parts of biology. It doesn't mean you have to understand the entire field because it is massive.
Yeah.
From evolutionary biology to cellular biology to, it is just a huge field. So finding one person who knows all that it's unlikely. Inviting other individuals who have a deep connection, naturalists, those who spend time outdoors, those working in gardens. There's a number of ways for us to invite biology into our world, and to learn about nature. Biomimicry is all about learning from nature, but it really does help when we just learn about nature too.
Yeah. And there's so much to learn. What I love about being a naturalist and understanding the natural world is like the more you know you don't know. And so it's this endless digging for information and being amazed and being in awe and wonder and then finding more information that leads you to something else. And that's why I love biology, even though I'm not a biologist. And you spoke to something too, this like sitting with knowledge and not being afraid to go deeper into the biology. I think a lot of folks have a hesitation that because they're not a biologist, they're not going to understand the scientific literature, perhaps. And I tell my students this too. And I like to get into the research. Like if you find an article that explains how cholla cactus have a structure that's really interesting and strong with minimal material, and it matches your question in the biomimicry space, spend time with that article. Those researchers spent years potentially putting together this study, understanding this specific strategy in a really deep way. And yes, there'll be some language that you don't understand or some acronyms or abbreviations or words that are tough, but read the abstract, highlight words you don't know, really go through it slowly. These are all suggestions that I have too for folks to read the biology and perhaps have a different perspective because you went a little deeper. And then there's a great list of authors at the top who did that research, so maybe reach out to them and have some conversations. Yeah, so I think my next question is just what is learned biomimicry? And if folks are ready to kind of dive a little deeper into biomimicry or want to take their own practice a little deeper, how they can do that with learned biomimicry.
Yeah. Learn Biomimicry is a space, it's a portal, it's an entrance into the world of biomimicry. It's also a community of learners who are looking to apply biomimicry to different projects. It really helps, if you're looking to practice biomimicry, a lot of individuals come to us and say, I really want to apply biomimicry. It helps to have a project.
Yeah.
And to start with a project and to play with it. Generally that project, it helps for it to be in a space that you deeply know and are comfortable in. And it also helps to have really specific focus. So last week we had these incredible presentations from our pangolin cohort, part of the Biomimicry practitioner program. And one of the Biomimicry practitioners, Leanne, really struck me. You know, she almost apologized that she was too focused. You know, she went into the chamois of a cycling shorts, you know, like just the cushioning on a cycling short is very specific. And she asked nature, you know, how do we create a product that is more circular and more like nature? And it was incredible, really great collaboration. It was in a field that she deeply knew. She partnered with some great cycling brands to bring about this. And she can affect the change. You can see that it's within her realm of competence. It also helps when you're looking to apply biomimicry to deeply love the problem and to fall in love with the problem. I think Deepak from Green Pod Labs really illustrates this so beautifully, really deeply passionate about finding solutions to food waste in India, and came about building these sachets which learn from plant volatiles and how plants communicate. So if you are passionate about biomimicry and are looking to take it to the next level, we have built a space where anyone around the world can come into the program and learn together, learn alongside. And I think for biomimicry, to my point earlier around non-deterministic ways, what we've done is really blend project-based learning, which really enables you to bring in your own expertise, mentorship, which mentorship and apprenticeship is something I'm deeply passionate about. It was how I got into biomimicry, creating more space for that. And then peer-to-peer learning being the last part of that. So those three parts learning from your peers and alongside others, project-based learning, and apprenticeship are 3 parts of Biomimicry practitioner program and educator program, which for a 6-month program really brings together a space where you can take your biomimicry practice to the next level.
Yeah, I love that. And heard from so many people that the Learn Biomimicry spaces for that are just really powerful. So I appreciate the work that you do and the people that you bring in and welcome in and then kind of train and give those tools to be able to do it in the real world.
Thank you. Yeah. We're deeply passionate. We're a deeply passionate community of nature nerds. And I think we're just getting started, you know. I think the world is deeply calling for biomimicry and calling for life-friendly design. We've got a lot to do to give back to our natural world. And I think biomimicry is a space and is one of the ways in which we can do that. And I'm just so excited to see, where we can help. You know, specifically help those who don't necessarily have a voice. You know, just the natural world around us.
Yeah, those crows definitely do have a voice. They're so loud, but they're having conversations right now, right? Like we're in their space, and all these birds are just waking up and saying good morning and communicating in a really cool way that we don't understand. Practical examples of biomimicry that we can be inspired by.
Some practical examples of biomimicry range from creating a living concrete, a concrete that can heal itself. Within that, I think there's a bit of a danger. You know, I think we must be incredibly mindful about the designs that we create. And if we are to create things that can last much, much longer, we should, I think, really design things that are incredibly beautiful. You know, I often think of a home. If you design a beautiful home that can last 300 years, it's much more sustainable than a design that has to change consistently. Allowing for it to be multifunctional is really critical. On the architectural front, one of my favorites is the Bug Pavilion, which was created out of the University of Utrecht, Stuttgart. And they really embodied biomimicry throughout the entire process of weaving materials, creating an incredibly light but strong structure. Then there's more interesting examples of enabling tools that allow us to apply biomimicry. Fusion Bionic is one that's come out, the Ray of Hope Accelerator, which I just absolutely love.
They're really cool.
And Fusion Bionic really allows us to create nano structures on materials that mimic nature. And with that, you can create self-cleaning products, which could be applied to solar panels, to the built environment, and even to airplanes to stop freezing on planes.
Yeah, without the harsh chemicals.
Exactly. Another practical example, and I was chatting with Jay Harmon just 2 weeks ago, is the Pax Lily impeller, which really looks at flow and turbulence. And Jay Harmon is an incredible biomimicry innovator. He understood a very simple but important principle in nature, and that is nature doesn't design in straight lines.
Yeah.
The Pax Lily impeller is an impeller that can be applied in water tanks. So instead of using these very large paddles to turn water and using chemicals to stop the water stagnating, the Pax Lily impeller creates a flow that is much more natural and incredibly efficient. So the outcome of that is using 85% less chemicals to keeping water fresh for longer,
Wow.
as well as 90% less energy. And
Whoa.
that is just one example of us deeply understanding flow and turbulence within water. And as sort of Jay Harmon alluded to, he said there was a matrix of 500 other possible applications that this can be applied to.
So what's one word of advice that you'd give folks who really want to dive deeper into biomimicry?
Start where you are. So what I mean by that is start where you are within your field of competence, where you're most comfortable. Start where you are in your local biome and your local ecosystem. Get to know it, get out there, get exploring. And start where you are, it also means just start. So biomimicry is more about innovation than it is about invention. And for innovation, we need a fast iteration cycle. And that's evolution, right? It's like this quick learning. You want to speed up your learning as fast as possible. So finding ways in which you can speed it up is really critical to applying biomimicry to a project. So find a project and dive in. I think that's the easiest way in which you can get started in applying biomimicry.
I love that. And go outside.
Yeah.
Nerd out
Nerd
on
out.
the moss and the lichen and the crows and start to ask questions, right? About like, what are they doing and how might I learn from them? I love that.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much for us to learn from nature, from each other, from mentors, those who have come before us. And there's some incredible books as well. We did create a 3-part short course which dives deep into the introduction of biomimicry, which really is for those who have heard the term, have read a few books, but are now interested in understanding the why, what, and how of biomimicry. We've also built a course on the life's principles and a biomimicry masterclass, which looks into systems thinking and design thinking and how those apply in the context of biomimicry.
Awesome. It was so great chatting today, and I hope this inspires folks to go outside, practice biomimicry, get interested in biomimicry, immerse yourself in biomimicry, and there's so many levels to that, so just start where you are. I love that.
Yeah. And thanks for all the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's great to connect with an old friend and meet up in person.
I know, kind of surreal to be like, you're the square that I usually see.
This is the back of my head.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate you all for listening in today and for being a part of this beautiful web of changemakers across the globe. I'm excited to continue to share my own journey and invite guests that inspire us and give us a greater sense of curiosity for our genius world. This episode was brought to you by Learn Biomimicry. If you're wanting to start your own biomimicry journey, they have a special offer for my listeners. I've known about Learn Biomimicry for ages and actually was a mentor for one of their programs briefly a few years ago. I've seen firsthand the impact it can have on folks. This is your chance to better understand biomimicry in just 3 short courses, all with the depth of a degree and the ease of a TED Talk. Today, Learn Biomimicry has helped more than 1,679 learners from over 41 countries practice biomimicry in their personal and professional lives. They've brought biomimicry to every continent, with the exception of Antarctica, although that could change, you never know. All my listeners save $60 when you purchase the Biomimicry short course set. There's also a free ebook to get you started. Use the coupon code LEARNINGFROMNATURE with no spaces, or head to www.learnbiomimicry.com/learningfromnature. That's all one word, www.learnbiomimicry.com/learningfromnature. Happy learning!